Hey friends, so I thought it would be fun to do a quick little tutorial about how I like painting loose watercolor leaves. So all kinds of these real loose, colorful leaves that are really simple, really easy to do when you're painting like a loose watercolor bouquet. So I'm gonna just be using two of my favorite sets of watercolors. I love these Praying half pan watercolors, kind of a budget-friendly version, but I actually use these all the time. And they actually come with one of my favorite round brushes. It's just this nice little round brush. I'm also using this one, I think is Jane Davenport's watercolors, which you can tell I love them because they're kind of messy right now. I'm running out of some of the colors, but these are the two I'm using. And I'm just gonna show you guys how I create a simple watercolor stem and leaf by just using my brush, water, and that pigment. All right, so I've got my smaller brush, and what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna load it up with color. I've got like a few different colors I've been mixing up. When I do leaves with my florals, I love kind of a real dark olive green. I don't usually just use my green out of the pan. I like mixing up something a little bit darker, but I'm gonna start with a stem, and I'm gonna use the tip of my brush and just kind of, I don't know, just do kind of an organic movement with my hand. I'm actually gonna take my brush and just dip it maybe once in my water, give it a little swipe, and then pressing the tip of my brush down, I'm gonna start small and then push all the way out to get my leaf. I'm gonna dip it again in my water and do the same thing. And just with the swipe and the movement of my hand, you get these really beautiful organic leaves. You can move your hand in different motions. You're gonna get movement going on. When I'm painting loose watercolors, I'm just not concerned about capturing perfection, realism. I'm getting kind of expressive. But see how that works with your brush? So again, I'm gonna dip it in my water. The more water you have loaded in your brush, the lighter it's gonna be, and you can really play around with how that pigment moves around. If you want a darker leaf, you can go in, not add any water, and just pull that through. And then I like to add those leaves all along my stem. Again, pressing that tip of your brush down and then pulling it out as you push those bristles down. Okay, so you can also take the same approach with a bigger brush. I like my round brushes when I'm working this way, but I'm just using a Zen Royal and Langnickel, quite a mouthful for this brand, but it's a size 10 round brush. It's obviously bigger, but you still have that nice tip. This isn't a super expensive brush, but it does the job. It's something I really enjoy using. I actually have these in a variety of different sizes, but I'm just gonna show you how you can do same thing. This time around, I'm gonna just press down and then pull it across my paper. And see how I get some resist here just because probably there's not pigment on my brush. I actually like those happy mistakes, things that I can't predict. So I'm gonna get kind of a bigger leaf. I can pull my brush farther out. Same approach. So I'm starting by pressing the tiny tip of my brush, and then I'm pushing it down and then pulling it across the page. And you can use this approach for a variety of different leaves. So a lot of times I will just do a couple of standalone leaves with my flowers. Other times I will go real small, so getting my stem and just keeping my leaves nice and short, small, just little flicks of my wrist. I've got a lot of pigment, a lot of paint on my brush, so this one's a lot darker. But something I like to recommend for people to do is to really get to know their supplies. But getting to know your brushes too, like what can you do with different movements of your hand, flick of your wrist? How far can you pull that brush along the surface before it runs out of paint? I think it's really, really helpful to understand how your supplies work, even if they're economic supplies, even if they're expensive top of the line supplies. So I'm gonna just use my smaller brush and do some smaller, kind of more viney leaves. And keep them real small. So I'm not pressing my brush down all the way. I'm just kind of dragging it slightly across that surface. So I get these fun, kind of smaller, thinner little leaves. So something as simple as just a little watercolor flower in the middle of a page can really quickly be transformed with a leaf or a stem. So I'm gonna just add a couple of them to my flower. So I even like to add kind of these little wispies. And really quickly, you have something that looks and feels a lot more like a little bouquet or something that's got a lot of movement to it. Or you can take something as simple as a little, you know, collection of flowers. Sure, they're pretty. They're pretty on their own and they're colorful, but once you start adding kind of those more intricate leaves, stems that have a little bit of a finer line here and there, you begin adding just this different quality that I think feels a little bit more, I guess, refined. And it really turns that bouquet or that collection of flowers into something totally different. Okay, so see how that quickly transforms that little clump of flowers into something that looks and feels a little bit more like a bouquet. So again, these are loose flowers, loose leaves. You're not sketching them out first and getting them perfect. You're using your tools and materials to kind of be a little bit more expressive, make them work for you. But this is just a really, really quick way to create those leaves. And I hope this gives you guys a little bit of inspiration to get playing with your watercolors, no matter what kind you have, get playing with your brushes and mess around with leaves, even adding them to florals and color to transform them into something really unique and beautiful.